Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for jumping on. Today, we're going to go over the online offers platform, HomeBoss. Many of you on this call have used it, have had great success with it. A lot of you have not had a chance to use it yet, and will certainly take a lot away from today's meeting. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you my listing presentation. I have added a few extra slides for presentation purposes for today, but in the short end of it, this is my listing presentation. When I meet with sellers for sale by owner, expireds, canceled, probate, divorce, heck, anybody in my phone, we certainly have the best way to get the seller the highest and best price in the shortest amount of time with the least amount of liability, the least amount of hassle, and the least amount of expense. The sellers really like that last part. So with that said, I'm going to get right into it. And I always like to start off with the future ain't what it used to be. And that's going to take a few minutes for some of you to really get that, because it's like, what? That Yogi Bear is always coming up with good stuff. But the reason why I like to bring this up, I'm a big Yankees fan. Sorry, William, I know you're a Braves fan, and congratulations for them winning the World Series. But Yogi Berra always comes up with great quotes. But what it does is it reminds me of my favorite player of all time, and that's Reggie Jackson. Reggie Jackson, many of you know, is known as Mr. October, home run hitter, Mr. Clutch in October. So he's known for hitting home runs. But what he's not known for, and the why it relates to real estate, is because he's not known, but holds the record for more strikeouts than anybody in Major League history. That's a big deal. He's known to everybody as the home run hitter, Mr. October, but he holds another record about strikeouts. He struck out more than anybody. And the reason why I like to bring that up is because when we call for sale by owner, we call expired, we call canceled, we're getting a lot of no's. So if Reggie Jackson went up to the plate the first few times and struck out, and he just says, yeah, I'm not a good hitter, I'm just not going to try this. He went back up to the plate the next time and got a hit. Next time he got up, he got a home run. Same thing with calling for sale by owner, expireds, and canceled. You need to get up there. You need to take your at-bats. The better you become at this product and understanding how to convey the message to the seller, just like Reggie Jackson learned how to hit the curve, learned how to hit the fastball. He learned how to become a success. It took a lot of failure to get there, but that's very similar to the real estate business. So what I'm going to do today is talk about the now business. And what I mean by now business is the current market we're in, the inventory is down, and there's a lot of potential sellers out there. Heck, I was just on My Plus Leads, and on March 1st, there was like 31 FSBOs expired and canceled. That's 31 opportunities to get in front of a potential seller. And we could certainly go out and knock our doors in the neighborhood, do a flyer, do a postcard, run an ad. But the for sale by owner, for example, they have their hands up. They're saying, hey, I'm selling my home. All we need to do is reach out to them and let them know of our product. So if you're not taking 2 to 3 listings each and every week, you need to get understanding of how this platform works, because the listings are out there. So we need to do is, for instance, here's a marketing piece that I use. Because you want an expert, we have so many sellers talk about how they want Insta offers. They want cash offers. We can certainly provide a cash offer within 24 hours. It's just that simple. We just need a few things. We need the property address, some sales comps, some photos, but it's a simple upload. If you go to homebossoffers.com, and you can upload and receive an all cash offer for that seller. So it's fantastic a way to do it. And this is my marketing piece. And if you do not have it, let me know and I'll get it to you. So this is when I first started doing this marketing, I was marketing to the seller saying, sell your home and sellers pay 0 commission. And that's certainly a great idea for sellers. But what I was finding is the sellers are thinking, nah, that's too good to be true. I changed it up a little bit, saying sellers only pay 1%. And my phone was ringing off the hook just because of the 1% difference. So I'm a big fan of the sellers paying whatever they're comfortable paying, because we can certainly help that seller. So this is the marketing I do for now business. Certainly, I'm going to show you some scenarios where a seller said, we're not paying any commissions. We can take that listing. Not many agents can say that. When I talk about now business, that means there's also future business. Future business is REO. Are you positioned for the REO business? How do we position? How do we get ready so when the REO market does rear its ugly head, us as agents are there to assist the asset managers with their properties? It's another way to get business, and a lot of it. I was in the REO business in the 90s. We did a tremendous amount of business. Then it came back again in the early 2000s and did even more business. And just so we're clear, I don't want people to lose their homes at all. However, I don't have any control over that. What I do have control is learning the REO business, the default business, so those asset managers have a trained and certified agent in myself and you to take those REO listings and sell them for the highest and best price in the shortest amount of time with the least amount of liability, hassle, and expense, just like a traditional seller. So we certainly will be talking more as time comes about the REO market. We touched base a little bit on the iBuyer program, homebossoffers.com. This is where sellers get paid 100% of appraisal value. Now remember, appraisal is just simply an opinion. It's an opinion of property value. It's not market value necessarily. And in many times, it's lower than market value because it's all cash and investors need to make a profit to do that. So what this does, this allows the seller, who can certainly sell their home in today's market if they're priced even close to reasonable market value. But what's happening is the sellers can sell their home with ease, especially with our platform. But when they sell their home, where do they go? They certainly are not living with me. And I don't know if they want to live in a motorhome for very long. So we need to let them know that they can get a cash offer from us, 100% of appraised value, certainly less than market value, but up to 100% of appraisal value. They get 90% up front and 10% at closing. Here's what it means. It makes that seller, and the reason why most sellers are having a problem finding up-leg properties is because they're contingent upon selling their home. So the seller that turns into the buyer is contingent upon selling that home. So a listing agent's going to look at that, and the seller's going to look at that and go, I don't want a contingent buyer. I want a non-contingent buyer. What this does, this iBuyer program that we have, allows that seller to become a non-contingent buyer. So let's recap. We have sellers that want to sell their home using cash. I get a lot of calls from sellers saying, oh, I want a cash offer. When you really get down to it, they want the highest and best price in the shortest amount of time. They just hear all the stories of troubles because the buyer's loan didn't go through or didn't appraise, or all these different horror stories about buyers that are getting loans. So they just think they want a cash offer to ease things. But I've never met a seller that didn't want the most amount of money for their home. This gets you to the table. It gets you in the conversation with the seller that says, hey, I want cash. And when you do, if they're with Open Door or OfferPad or any of the many other cash buyers out there, you have a seat at the table. But I find that this is just an opening. No seller, once they understand what their options are, will ever go with an all cash offer when we can get their home sold in 14 days using our online offers platform that gets them the highest and best price in the shortest amount of time, 14 days. And they certainly, once they see that comparison, they most certainly will go with the online offers platform. You just give me 4 more days and I'll get you a much higher offer. So cash offer, There's renovation options that we have. So you can have Curbio if you're not in California or Arizona. Curbio is a nationwide rehab company that'll go in, do the repairs, and then charge the escrow for that fee. It's a great way to go, especially if you have a home that hasn't been updated in quite some time. I've went into a home not too long ago that still had shag carpet. I didn't even know they made that stuff anymore. It had wallpaper. It had Elvis drapes, like I like to call them, the ones that span across the whole house. So this home has not been updated in a while. So you can do a cash offer, a renovation offer, where the renovation work and relocation costs, because you certainly can't live in the home while it's being renovated. You can go into a short-term rental, get that expense paid, and it gets all paid at close of escrow. Or you can go to the online offers platform. And I'm finding that most of the sellers, once they know the options, the cash solution is not the answer. The online offers platform is the best way to go for sellers. Because remember this, one thing has always been the same. Seller's objection has not changed in my 36 years in the business. Sellers want the highest and best price, shortest amount of time, least amount of hassles, liability, and expense. You'll hear me say that time and time again, but I'm right. That is what sellers want. I've never had a seller say, Robert, if you can get me the least amount of money from my home, I'd appreciate it. I've never heard this either. Robert, if you can charge me the most amount of commission, that'd be great. Remember, highest and best price, shortest amount of time, least amount of hassles, liability, and expense. Now, in the past, we've had two options. Of course, the cash sale has been around forever. There's always somebody wanting to pay cash. My dad went around paying cash for properties all the time because he knows he can get a discount. That's what cash means. Traditional sale is what an agent will do, is put it in the MLS and let the buyers go out and fight for it. Do an open house or two and see what kind of offers they can create. I call it put in the MLS and let God do the rest of the work. So my point is, it was cash and traditional. But what we've done is we've come to a fork in the road. And I love this quote. When you come to a fork in the road, take it. Some of you are going to go, wait, what? My point is, the market has changed. This business has changed. And now we have three options. We still have the cash solution. We still could just put it in the MLS and pray. Or we can do the online offers platform, a different way of marketing that brings excitement, competition, higher sales prices, lower fees to the seller, and best of all, it takes only 14 days. Given the opportunity, which one do you think the seller would like to take once they know the cash offer is substantially lower than if they put it on the open market? A traditional agent has maybe an 89-point marketing plan, but really all they're doing it is putting in the MLS. Our marketing strategies far exceed that of others. You got to remember the dust theory. Has anybody heard of the dust theory? Demand, urgency, scarcity, and transparency. Dust. Demand, urgency, scarcity, transparency. Remember that, because that's really what our system's all about. The old way of doing real estate, and I still talk to sellers today, that when I ask them, how do they come up with their sales price? Like if they're on Zillow, how did they come up with that sales price? They'll say, well, the neighbor down the street sold for $675, so that's how I came up with $725. Because they have this perception that the market has just gone through the roof, and many times they're right. Last year, homes appreciated 25.9%. That is amazing appreciation for sellers. What it's also done is created a lot of sellers that are getting a little greedy, a little ambitious with their sales price. What we need to do is let them know sellers used to price their property high and negotiate down. What we're doing, we start low through our transparent online platform and allow that price to stop where the market takes it. The market, meaning the buyer. The buyer is the only one that creates market value, not the seller just because they think they need a certain amount to go to the next home or just because they think that's what they want. It's definitely not us agents. It's not even the appraiser that determines market value. The buyer is the one that determines market value. And with our transparent online offers platform, we do just that. Let me give you an example of how we do our pricing. We have a seller that wants to get a certain amount of money, and you and the seller agree to that amount. Then we take it 15% below. When I mean that the seller and yourself agree to that market value or estimated market value, because we still need to put it at a market, the estimated value, once you both agree on it, you're going to run your sales comparables. They're going to see those sales comparables and you're going to agree to a price. Then you bring that price 15% below, and that's the price we start our marketing and allow that market to dictate what that home is worth. So that's our marketing strategy, and I use this to the penny. Every single time I finally agree to a sales price with the seller, sometimes it takes a little time by showing them comparable sales and showing them data that really shows what their home should sell for, but reminding them that the market is dictated by the buyer. So with that said, when a seller says, I really don't want to price my home 15% below, I ask them a simple question: which would attract more buyers? This is your home, Mr. Seller. We have 3 prices. One starts at 600, one starts at 7, the other starts at 8. Which one of those do you think will create more buyer traffic? Make sense? They always say A. Okay, so excuse me. Here's the perception. It's all perception. There's 3 strategies of pricing. You price it high, you attract less buyers. That's a simple math question. You price it at market, sure, you're going to attract more buyers. But if you price it below market, you get maximum buyers and you create a bidding war. And that is what we're here to do. Now, here's some of the benefits of using the online offers platform. It's a simple sales process that requires no negotiating on the part of the seller. At the end of the day, who's really paying for the commissions in a real estate transaction? Think about it. Every agent I've ever talked to always says the seller. And then I simply reply with this: with the buyer's money. The buyers are the ones that pay the commissions. We're just offering a transparent solution to that. Because when you walk into an open house and you're walking along and they say, hey, so agent, how are you paid? Oh, don't worry, the seller pays me. That's not correct, is it? The buyer pays the commissions and always have. We have a deadline that creates buyer urgency. After the open house weekend, that very Wednesday at 7 o'clock, all offers are due. So we're creating urgency. Remember DUST, demand, urgency, scarcity, and transparency. We set the terms so they can plan their life accordingly. We only do those Saturday and or Sunday open house. Now, some of my sellers are landlords and they only want to do a 1-day open house because it's tenant occupied, and I certainly understand. But ideally, the best way to do it is Saturday and Sunday to get maximum exposure. That's the only time that home will be shown. Oh, but I can't come. Can I come early? No. We drive all the traffic to a 1-day open house. Number one, it's less hassle for the seller. But number two, it drives all the traffic into 1 or 2 showings where all the other buyers see each other. So the terms of that are important so the sellers can plan their life accordingly. They receive true market value using the online offers platform because the buyers are submitting their offer in a transparent way. And I'll show you more about that in a second. Remember, no hassles. I had a seller. He was an expired listing. His property was downtown and he was listed before, and that seller basically didn't have any, guidelines on when the showings were. So it was just random showings, a couple today, a couple tomorrow, a couple the next day. But this seller, he would go in, buff the floors out before every showing. It took him about an hour. So he would prepare his home before every showing. That's a little excessive, but guess what? Pride of ownership is important. However, can you imagine a couple of buyers that didn't show up after he spent an hour sanding those floors and getting them buffed out? That got old and he was done doing it. The listing expired, saying, there's got to be a different way. I reached out to him. He didn't really so much care about the price or the commissions. His biggest thing that he was concerned with is, I can't do random showings like that anymore. It's killing me. So I introduced him to a one-day open house and he's all done. Let's do this. Sure, we needed to agree on a price. We needed to agree on commissions, which we did. And we successfully sold his home for about 17% above the most recent comp. He was elated. There's less inconvenience, like keeping their house clean. Back in the old days, what we would tell sellers is, make sure your beds are made every day. Make sure the dishes are done every day. Make sure that you leave the house every time a buyer comes over. Can you imagine if you have kids and dogs and a life? That's just not a way to go. You only have to have your home ready for the Saturday and or Sunday by appointment only open house. And the best part is these for sale by owners are only paying what they set out to pay in the beginning. For instance, if I'm talking to a for sale by owner and they say they only want to pay 2%, great. You're only paying 2% and you get all the experience, all the marketing, all the exposure. Like any other agent, only we have a turbocharger on our marketing. So let me explain some of that marketing. We, just like any other agent, we're normal agents, just like anybody else. All of our homes are traditional sales, right? We put it in the MLS and it automatically syndicates, if you check the box, obviously. And it goes to Zillow, Redfin, Trulia, Realtor.com, and every single website on the planet. So all of our marketing goes out immediately. We run Facebook ads. We use our CRM Grow. We use our KV Core. We use, we door knock. There's a lot of things we do to drive a boatload of traffic. And here's some samples of what some of our traffic looks like. This is what we show our sellers in terms of what kind of traffic we can generate. When the sellers see this, they're like, oh my goodness, what do you think about the buyers when they see this kind of line? And the property, remember, it started at 15% below market. So we're going to get, of the 100% of the buyers that show up, 80% are not going to want to buy it at any other price than that start price. They may not like the location. They may not like the floor plan, whatever. But what it does is it motivates the 20% that just have to have that home. They're telling each other, saying, it looks like we're not going to get this for that low price. So what it does, that 80% motivates the 20%. So look at it as a movie. And these are extras in that movie, because more traffic equals more opportunity for the seller. Now, here's what our appointments look like. By appointment only, these buyers have provided proof of funds. They've provided a fully underwritten pre-approval, DU approval. They schedule a time. Now, this was an example of a seller that only wanted one day because it was tenant occupied. So what we did is we started at 9 in the morning and went till 6 o'clock at night. And you can see we had appointments every 15 minutes. You'll see a couple in here that were doubled up and tripled up because we wanted to get as many people inside the home as possible. But what we have here is I call this controlled chaos, because an open house, a normal, regular old open house, if you get 50 people through the doors, you're, excited. If I get 50 people through the door, I feel it's like a failure. We had an open house just recently, Harriet. We had 78 groups of 2, groups of 5, groups of 3, 78 groups through the doors. We had a line around the block. It was fantastic. And that is what our sellers are wanting from us. So we want pre-approved, fully vetted buyers to see that home in a controlled environment. Every 15 minutes is certainly fine, enough time for those buyers to see the home. Because guys, remember this. When buyers compete, sellers win every single time. And that's really our fiduciary responsibility, right? Is to get the highest and best price for our sellers. Now, again, this is the marketing. So if you have a seller that says, I don't want to pay any commission. Let me give you an example. This seller right here. Hi, this is Robert with eXp. I'm calling about your property at 4036 Camino Calma in San Diego. Is your home still available? Yes, it is. Great. If I was to bring you an offer at a price that was acceptable, would you be willing to pay the standard 3% buyer's fee? Her response, no, I'm not paying any commission to anybody. Fantastic, I say. When can we schedule a quick Zoom meeting to go over your property in more detail? And she reminded me I'm not paying any commission. And matter of fact, I'm not paying a home warranty, she tells me. I said, great, let's get on a quick Zoom call so I can find out more about your property. Let me give you a quick history about this property. It was on Zillow. It was listed for $635, which in my opinion, this was tenant occupied. It was a mess. I mean, it was beat up. It was really, really worn out. These tenants, just like a lot of tenants, just treated it just like it was no big deal. I mean, the door jambs were busted up. There's windows didn't open. The drawers are missing. It was in bad shape. So 635 was a stretch, to say the least. This seller wanted 635 and didn't want to pay any commissions. Most agents would have run from this. We could handle it. Here's why. We got her 661, which is more than 635, and that was quite an ambitious goal, to say the least. We got her 661, but wait a second, how did the commissions get paid? Let me show you. Right here, see this? Agent compensation, 6%. Let's go back to this screen real quick. 661 plus 6% equals a sales price of 660. The reason why I like to have proof of funds, guys, is because number one, I want to make sure they have the financial wherewithal to get this transaction closed. But I also want to make sure when they place their offer, they have the financial backing should the appraisal not come in. Now this one, I was sweating. I didn't think this appraisal was going to come in, but it's a good thing I put in my counter offer that the buyer is to pay the shortage, if any, between sales price and appraisal. And I knew the buyer could do that because I had their proof of funds. I put it in the counter. They agreed to that, and we got our property closed. Now, this property did appraise, and so the buyer didn't have to bring in any extra money. But my point is, I get that question a lot. What if it doesn't appraise? What if it doesn't appraise in traditional, non-online offers platform real estate? You have the buyers pay the difference, or you negotiate between buyer and seller, just like normal real estate, but we put it in the seller counter. As you can see, all these offers are transparent. Now, we had 17. You can just see the top 5, but you can see every time somebody places an offer, Camille here came back in and placed a higher offer. Then this guy came back, placed an offer, Camille came back, and then this guy finally won the offer, and we went to escrow. But as you can see, buyers have the ability to come in transparently and place another offer. In traditional real estate, the way it's done now is you write an offer, you submit that offer to the seller. The seller hopefully gets that offer from the agent, right? Sometimes we don't know if they got our offer. The seller responds with a seller's multiple counter asking for what? The highest and best price. They don't tell you where all the other offers are. Very rarely. Very rarely will they tell you how many, but they never tell you what the price is of the other buyer's offers because they've been trained not to tell. Our platform does the exact opposite. It's fully transparent, so you know exactly where the last offer was. What that does, it eliminates buyer's remorse. This buyer that won this property knew he only had to pay $2,000 above the previous offer. So it eliminates buyer's remorse. And another thing, They can see the winning offer, can see that there's a backup offer right behind them. Should this buyer not perform, we can go to the backup offer and should have no problem continuing with that escrow. So that's why I like the transparency, but buyers love it because they're so tired of being outbid. How many times have you written an offer and you were outbid only for the buyer to say, well, had I known, I'd have paid a little more? Happens all the time. This way takes the guesswork out, and the buyers and the buyer agents, once they understand it, love it. Now remember, everything's disclosed right here. This particular seller didn't want to pay any commissions or a home warranty. Guess what? She didn't have to pay any commissions because the buyer paid it right here. Okay? It's fully disclosed. Here's another sample. This is a great story. This is a property over on Riley Street. Great seller, wonderful seller. She only wanted to pay 2%. You certainly can't make a living and make a good business out of taking 2% listings if you're going to give one to the buyer agent, one to the listing agent. That's not a business model. I wouldn't like that. What we did here, like the similar example I gave you where they paid no commission, this seller was willing to pay 2. So what do? We have the buyer pay 4. 2 plus 4 is 6. It's simple math. Now watch this. We had 36 offers. The seller got 780. The buyer paid 31,200, which represents 4%. It automatically calculates total purchase price. If the seller accepts, which you'll see in a minute that she did, they're ready to go write their contract. So here's the thing I wanted to show you. This seller wanted 675. She was pretty convinced that her home was worth 675. That's what she had it in Zillow. That's what her comps show. And I verified those comps and she was spot on. She wanted 675. Well, as you can see, not only did she get 675, she called me up when she got 675. She goes, Robert, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. We got our price. Let's open up escrow. All right. I said, Sheila, her name was Sheila. We still have 2 hours left for buyers to place offers. So my suggestion is let it play it out. And I knew she loved Chardonnay. So I said, go grab a glass of Chardonnay, watch it on the big screen. She got her Apple TV, watched it on the big screen. And here's what she watched. She watched another offer come in, another offer, 690, 695. Boom. She calls me again at 700. Oh my God, Robert, are you watching? Yes, I'm watching. She was taking video. She was taking photos. She was so excited. She got $25,000 more than she ever thought she would get. We're not done yet. We let it finish out and it finally ended. And it ended at 780. Guys, for those of you taking notes, 675 was her goal. 780 is what she got. That's $105,000 more than she ever dreamed possible. Do you think she's excited? You bet. And it's all disclosed right here, guys. Okay? So, because at the end of the day, who pays the commissions in a real estate transaction? The buyer does. You just got to understand how that works. So now, here's the simple process to get started for the seller. They simply sign the listing agreement. Typically, what I'll do is I'll do a Zoom call with the seller. I'll show them the features and benefits and what we can do. And I find that this is a visual presentation. That's why it's so important to get them on a Zoom call. You get them on a Zoom call, you can share the success stories that we've had with other properties. You can certainly use all my properties as your examples because we're on the same team. We do a Zoom call. We show them the features and benefits. Once they agree to those features and benefits, and you know what my close is with sellers? When can we do the open house? When do you think your home will be ready for the open house weekend? Oh, well, let me look at the calendar real quick. Oh, we can do it. How about in 2 weeks? Fabulous. That's my close. When can we do an open house for you? We begin the marketing that next Monday. We do a 1 or 2 day open house, depending on what the seller's needs are. If it's a tenant occupied, I find that most of them want to do a 1 day. If it's vacant, we can certainly do both days. But we encourage the sellers to do a 2-day open house because that's when we're going to drive maximum traffic. We just had an open house, almost reach 1,000 guests. Our record before that was 884. Record before that, 568. We are driving traffic to these open houses. Harriet, it's a lot of work, isn't it? But we get it done, okay? We get it done. The online offers begin after the open house. You cannot place an offer until after the open house. All offers are due Wednesday at 7, so that creates that urgency. Remember DUST, demand, urgency, scarcity, transparency. The seller has the right to accept, reject, or counter any offer, just like traditional real estate. The seller will accept the best offer for them. Doesn't necessarily mean it's the winning offer. If that offer has contingencies that the seller doesn't like or anything on that offer, the seller has the right to accept the best offer for them, just like in traditional real estate. Once we get that offer accepted, we open up escrow and we get it closed. It's that simple. My listing agreement says 14 days. That's the time that it takes to start the listing and finalize, get a fully executed purchase contract for that seller. Then the seller in our addendum extends it to match that escrow. For example, we do 14 days of marketing, then we get an offer that the seller accepts. They agree to a 30-day escrow period. What we do is we extend it for 35 days to give a 5-day pad because sometimes holiday weekends come up. There are delays sometimes that happens. So you got to plan ahead, but we get it 35 days on a 30-day escrow. Let's say the seller agrees to a 45-day escrow. We extend that listing for 50 days to give a 5-day pad and so on. Okay. So now this right here is our roadmap. We do the initial meeting through Zoom. Then we get the contract signed. That's after we agree to a price, commissions, and when we're going to be doing the open house weekend. We establish that price, put it in the MLS, put it on the online offers platform. We prepare their home for either 1 or 2 days of open house. And they don't need to keep it clean that whole time. They just have it presentable for a 1 or 2 day open house. All those buyers are directed to our online offers platform where the seller can accept, reject, or counter multiple offers should they like, or they can just accept the offer that was the highest price. Sometimes, most of the time, that's what happens because we do a lot of vetting of these buyers during the process. The seller accepts the offer, we open up escrow, and then we close. It's that simple. So with that said, any seller that doesn't understand the process is probably because they're not have been exposed to it before. They're used to the old way of doing real estate. So I simply ask them this question. The world's finest art, classic cars, yachts, antiques are all sold on offer platforms. So why not your home? You want to get them the highest and best price, the shortest amount of time, the least amount of liability, hassle, and expense. That is my listing presentation.